Now, if you're like most players, you've probably been told you need to set your wrist early. A lot of pros will say that, well, I want to set this wrist early, keep this angle between my wrist all the way throughout the backswing, start my downswing, and then hit a shot doing that. Well, if you've tried that out, you've probably found that you don't get quite as much distance as you'd like. And you also notice that some of the best players in the world have these really wide takeaways. The club is getting wide away from their body. They're setting their wrist later, creating lag late in the swing, and then releasing the club. So why is that? Why is setting the wrist probably not the ideal thing to do? Setting the wrist later in the swing a little bit better for your lag and your speed. We're going to go over that and bust a couple myths in this video. Be sure to click that subscribe button. I got tons of great content, tons of great videos coming out this year. The only way you can get notified when we release new videos is by being a subscriber. So go ahead and pound that now. Click the thumbs up button, that always helps us out. And post your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. All right, so setting the wrist early. Now, what we're gonna have to do if we set the wrist early is not really move much of our body early in the takeaway. That's the first big piece there. If you start to move your body early, it's very difficult to have enough time to set your wrist. So the body stays fairly still. The wrist set, you'll hear a lot of coaches talk about how to get almost this 90-degree angle very early in the backswing and set that wrist there, then keep this angle throughout the swing. Now there's a couple reasons that I think this is going to kill your distance or really hurt your distance. The first one is what's called the stretch shortening cycle. So whenever I flex my wrist up, or which would be radial deviation like this, I'm stretching the bottom of my forearm. That's really important. You have to stretch your muscles first to then be able to fire them with a maximum amount of effort. If I stretch my forearms early and then I hold that angle, what's happening is my arms aren't as powerful when they're stretched and I hold that angle. Imagine you're grabbing a rebound in basketball. If I stretch my leg muscles and I bend down like I'm going to jump up, or if I'm doing a vertical jump, testing my vertical jump, how high I can go, I'm going to bend down and then immediately fire up into the sky. I'm not going to hold this down here and wait. Same thing in the golf swing. If I set this angle and then hold it throughout the swing, I'm going to lose some ability of my muscles to fire as fast as possible. Let me go ahead and put this to the test. Let me go ahead and hit one with this early wrist set, and let's see how much club head speed I get, and let's see how far this golf ball goes. There we go, right down the pipe. I could not have hit it much more solid. So this would be an awesome test, but because I should have gotten a decent amount of distance from this. If I check out my Flight Scope X3, we'll see, as I said, I could not have hit that one any straighter. And keep in mind, when I'm saying that this isn't the best way to set the wrist, I think you can hit the ball straight doing this. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think speed is where you're gonna really struggle. Having an extra 5 or 6 or 7 more miles an hour of speed, 20 yards of distance is a huge advantage. I'd rather be 20 yards longer and a little bit more wild, and all the statistics out there show the longer players tend to be better players, even if they are a little bit more wild. There I had 109 miles an hour club head speed. I hit the downslope there. That's actually pretty crazy. I carried it 250 and then it rolled out to 301 yards. So, hey, I'm gonna have to hit it pretty hard for this late wrist set to beat that. But let's put it to the test. We can try it out here on Flight Scope. It's gonna tell us exactly what to do, or exactly if we've beat this or not. I've set kind of a high bar for myself right now. So 109 and 301 total distance, only 250 carry though, is probably the one that sticks out to me the most there. Let's do the late wrist set now. Now there's a couple advantages in this late wrist set. When you do the late wrist set, you're gonna feel like your wrist is angled down like this. It's called ulnar deviation in the takeaway. Now that does a couple good things for you. Number one, remember in the early wrist set, when I set my wrist right away, how my body doesn't move very much in the swing. My hips don't rotate and my shoulders don't rotate. Now that's really gonna cost you some swing speed, and the reason is, if my hips and shoulders don't start to rotate early, I'll run out of speed really fast. The entire swing is less than a second for most players. So if I don't get those hips and shoulders turning early in the backswing, I'm gonna run out of time to get those hips and shoulders to turn as I continue back. What I'd like for you to feel is let those knees and hips pivot as you start your swing. Let those shoulders start to rotate and feel like your wrist is angled down in the swing as you do that. So as I do this, now I'm gonna have a much wider swing, and as I start my downswing, then I'm gonna really set my wrist and get the maximum angle of lag. And as soon as I've stretched this out, then I'm gonna go ahead and release it and let it go. So let's go ahead and put this to the test, and I'll talk about one more point that I think is very important when we're casting the golf club. All right, let's do the late wrist set here. There we go. Hit that one pretty good. I could definitely tell my swing speed was up. I saw that the ball carried a little farther. Let's see what the total distance was. All right, so the first one, 109 clubhead speed. That one went 116.5. So I picked up about 7 miles an hour of clubhead speed. Now, whether you're swinging 116 or 80 miles an hour, the same principles apply. If I get a bigger body turn, I might go from 80 to 86 or 87. Or if you're a fast swing speed player and you get a bigger body turn, you might go from 110 to 116. So these core principles apply no matter what your swing speed is. So I boosted up about 7 miles an hour swing speed, and I think you guys can get the same kind of results there. My carry distance went from 249 to 286. Carried the ball about 36, 37 yards farther. And my total distance went out, it didn't roll out quite as far on that one. I got 315 total. So I picked up about 14 yards of total distance. So by setting the wrist a little bit late in the backswing, now I could really get those wrists, well, two things. I could get a bigger turn, that helps me to build more power. And then I also got those wrists to stretch later and then fire with a little bit more effort as I'm coming through there. Last thing I want to mention here, and I think it's very important to realize just what's happening when we're casting the club. If I start to cast the club, let's imagine a figure skater before we get into this. If a figure skater is going to turn and twirl really, really fast, they pull their arms in tight and then they spin really, really fast. And if they put their arms out to the side, they slow down and spin a lot slower. You can do the same thing. Next time you go to a bar, get on a bar stool that spins around, start to pull your arms in, get your buddy to spin you around as fast as you can. Probably going to fall off the stool, but you'll spin pretty fast. If you put your arms out, you'll notice that that's going to slow down your moment of inertia, or increase your moment of inertia and resist your ability to rotate. So it's a big fancy way of saying when I stick things out away from my body, I'm going to rotate slower. Now when you cast in the downswing, when I get this early wrist set, remember I talked about how as soon as those muscles get stretched, they immediately want to fire? Well, a lot of times what players do is when they set those wrists early, as they start the downswing, they start to fire these wrists, and that kicks the club out in this casting motion, and now you have all this mass out away from your body. It slows down your ability to rotate. If I can set my wrists late, it slows down my ability to rotate in the backswing. It slows down and smooths out my backswing. As I start down, then I can get a lot of lag. Everything is in here tighter. I can rotate faster and then release the club and get those wrists and forearms to fire coming through the shot. So let me go ahead and hit one more good shot here. And again, you'll notice how the backswing on this wider, smoother takeaway creates a bigger shoulder turn, and it looks much more fluid and much smoother as I'm doing this. Let me get lined up with my flight scope here. Let's see if I can beat that record there. 315 on the last one. See if I can get up around 320. Really hammer one here. There we go, hit that one good. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do much better than that. Let's grab the flight scope and see what it said. Again, I try to stay nice and wide, really rotate my body on the way back. A little short, almost 120. I got 119 clubhead speed, highest carry distance all the way up to 294. Remember, I started at 249, and my total distance was 318.9, so it didn't quite get to the 320 I wanted, but hey, I'll take it. Now, one key thing that I didn't address in this video is shallowing out the golf club and what we call the move in the top speed golf system. When I really want to create a big angle of lag, I have to get this club to shallow out. If I face this camera here, if my club is steep, it doesn't appear to have very much lag. When I start to sharpen that or shallow that out, it gives it a much more sharp appearance. So my wrist angle isn't changing. All I'm doing is changing that optical illusion. That's the reason it sees such a sharp angle when you're watching the pros, is because all those guys are shallowing this club out to get the club coming down on the correct plane. And then from there, they're letting that club accelerate very fast through contact, and they can be really nice and consistent because the club's working down in what some people call the slot or on plane. I have an awesome video, it was called the tennis racket drill, that's going to help you to shallow that club out and actually square that face up early. I'm going to play a preview of that here in a second. You don't want to miss this video. It's one of the best ones I've ever done. It really has helped a ton of players. Click those cards that pop up on your screen or the link down below in the description and you'll get instant access. I'll see you in the move. Good player problems. We're going to talk about shallowing that club shaft out as we're starting down, as we're doing this rotating of the face that we worked on in the last video. As we start this downswing, what you'll see with basically all of the top players is instead of coming kind of over the top and letting the hands come out away from their body, letting the club come out away from their body, again coming down steep into the ball and then having to open up, kind of fillet open the face and add loft to it. The flattening of the shaft should happen as soon as we start down. So as we start this downswing, what we want to have happening here, you can imagine that if I draw a line from the hosel of my club up through my right elbow, that's my swing plane line, my elbow plane. As I go to the top of the swing, I'm going to be slightly above that. And then as I start down, I want my hands to start to shallow out. I want the club to shallow out inside of this elbow plane. And at the same time,